Okay, here we go. We're back on the same system as before. If you're just joining us, you can see that this is a Earth-like planet with heavily forested. The forest can have two impacts on you. One is that if you reclaim it, you can get resources out of it. However, if you try to build across it, you actually spend that time you can send a Uber cannon or something else to start a forest fire, and then it will burn down and be out of your way. So that's another possibility. And there's also 3 planets. The Marcel over here, second planet, is actually a starting planet. So if you want, you can start out here. Could be a risky option, but could be genius if you get that one alone. Lasca, this final planet out here, is way out on the outskirts of the solar system and all by itself, but resource rich, not a starting planet. And then the game is starting, so let's take a look at that. And here we go. So in the south here, we have Head Crab as the orange player. He gets started right away, and he's on the main planet. Over here, Milk Dragon is on the main planet as well, and he is in white. The blue player, Max, also here. Everybody started on the main planet, and then finally, Alistair is over here in the yellow. Now, Alistair has queued up a vehicle factory, so this is a very standard start. No risks really there. No commitment by Max yet, just working on the economy. Milk Dragon has already planned out one of each of the starting factories. I think that's a very powerful combination, so I'm very curious to see what kind of mix of units he builds. Vehicle first, I'm guessing that's bot second, and then finally air. And then over here we got Head Crab working on a vehicle factory. So that is the setup. Now it'll be interesting to see how quickly people move to an orbital plan. Max is actually queued up in air right after his vehicle factory already. So orbital, very important in this game, especially in a free-for-all. It's one of the ways you can kind of escape the conflict and move on to get to a little bit more isolated spot. Very advantageous. And I'm actually super surprised that nobody started on this planet. You get 1v1 here, and people will, even if you're 1v1, you can take your shot doing that 1v1 and then use that to expand. And then this planet, a little bit more resource rich and obviously a weapon of planetary annihilation. So back on the main planet, getting a little anti-air out by Milk Dragon. Doesn't want to have his fabricators sniped, and he moves that that spinner out to protect this fabricator. We've also got Burnt Custard. He's taking his chances with the bombing runs, and everybody's working on an economy start. We've got a scout here from Max moving through the base of Alistair. So he's been discovered, shot down by a tower there. Nice to have a little defense in there. He's also got an anti-air tower, and then you can see he's got a radar. Radar's very useful in these games because we take the perspective of Alistair. Alistair's actually allied with Max just now after he kills his scout. I think that's pretty funny. And then let's take each person's perspective. So Max, start from Max. He can see Alistair. He can see Burnt Custard, not allied with Milk Dragon. Okay, so and then Alistair, looking around, we can see he sees Burnt Custard and Max, and then Milk Dragon. I sense that he's gonna see nobody. That's right. The only vision he has of Max's base is his scout. And then Head Crab, looking around, he has a vision. So basically we've got a 3-on-1, everybody against Milk Dragon. Very interesting start. Of course, you've revealed your base to the other players. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep saying Burnt Custard because he's always orange, but it's actually Head Crab. Sorry about that. I've cast too many Burnt Custard games, I guess. At any rate, we've got these 3 have all allied with each other, as we can see from Head Crab's perspective, and Milk Dragon's on his own. So they're going to scout him out and maybe take him out. But really, I think this is a little bit of the cloak and danger. These guys are going to take a look at each other, what they're doing, and maybe make some decisions about how they're going to prepare. Because, of course, with this vision, as soon as you take out the alliance, you'll suddenly realize, like, okay, I know I've got perfect scouting up until that point. So looking around economy-wise, we actually looks like Milk Dragon's doing pretty well. He has, I keep seeing him flicker up to 108 economy as he is reclaiming over here these trees to get himself access, and he's using the combat fabricators, which is very useful technique. They're reclaiming tree by tree to make room for this. This combat fabricator, I believe, is just, he's just got an area reclaim to like take this stuff. So he's basically said, I don't need to build quite as much metal extraction at the beginning because I can just use a combat fabric and they will be like metal generators, because combat fabricators have a very high rate and they take no energy. So that is very useful. And forest fire started over here by Max, and yeah, Burnt Custard was in the audience on the chat telling me I'm not actually in that game, dude. And so now here we've got Head Crab in the orange, confusing me, starting to move on his orbital. As soon as you see your allies moving to orbital, you really need to do so yourself. So let's take a look over here at these guys. Yep, we've got Alistair also working on orbital. Just going to quickly click through and make sure that everybody still has vision of each other. And it looks like the alliances have held so far. Just going to check on Milk Dragon's perspective. And then Head Crab, who was impersonating Burnt Custard earlier. And there it is. Okay, so everybody's still allied, except for Milk Dragon, really put in a position of awkwardness, though he doesn't have that much attacking him yet. Those guys are kind of like at this uncomfortable, it's uneasy alliance where they've kind of chosen to expand. One thing they need to pay attention to is Head Crab has actually expanded a little bit faster than the other guys. Milk Dragon, however, has a ton of economy due to his fabricators reclaiming the woods. And a bit of an attack here by Max is going to give everybody sight of Milk Dragon's base, and he's moving some of his own units out there to take out those guys. A little bit of terrain in the way, actually. Some bomb bots come out, and they will move around the side of that terrain and quickly take out that army. Great use of the bomb bots. You know, they have the cover of this little hill here, which gave them protection, allowed them to approach quickly and take out that army pretty cheaply. Head Crab moving in to attack Milk Dragon as well. This is like the worst situation ever for Milk Dragon to have 3 players against him. And here we go. Now he's going to notice that Commander is actually nearby, which will be very useful. Finishes that, working on that, moves his fabricator back, so he is paying attention to this assault. And Uber Cannon goes out, takes out a couple units, sets the forest on fire, and now we got to see how Milk Dragon is going to respond to this attack. Attacks coming in on multiple sides. He's actually losing some metal extraction points down here. Boom bots are ready to run in. In they go. Army's turning to face them. Do they get in there? Yes. Takes out a huge cluster of that army, and now he's down just to anti-air. Won't really face any difficulties there. Meanwhile, he's managed to take out that first bit of army, but there's more tanks moving in now. He's got his own tanks in response. Anti-air, the bombers are moving in, so he is really getting the squeeze by a couple of these players. Meanwhile, Alistair kind of staying out of it, maybe stockpiling his own army over here somewhere. Yeah, he's got a big army, but he's like, yeah, you guys spend your resources on fighting Milk Dragon. I'm just going to build units. It'll be fine. So a little bit of a interesting move by Head Crab and Max to say we're gonna try to take out Milk Dragon on our own and let Alistair do that. Let's take a look and just make sure that the alliances have held. Sure enough, everybody's still allied here. And let's go back to the main map. I'm just going to take a peek out here. We've got an orbital. We got an Astraeus moving out from Head Crab, and Milk Dragon actually has a orbital fabricator moving to the far planet, which I think is a great move. Be able to get a teleporter up, and even if he loses this base, he'll have a chance to kind of set up shop elsewhere, and he's got another orbital fabricator. So he is doing pretty well, actually. Still keeping a strong economy. Headcrab with the strongest economy by far, 270 metal per second, and maintaining it. Milk Dragon, you can see his economy fluctuates as the fabricators are reclaiming, but he does get like an extra 50 metal per second just out of that reclaiming process. Pretty powerful move there, and maybe one we'll see more as people adopt it. Another army pushing out by Headcrab, moving over here. He's also building his own proxy base here to attack more. If we take the perspective of Milk Dragon for just a moment, he can see the radar blips, but doesn't know that's a proxy base being built. So that would be kind of a rude awakening. But he's watching that huge army moving in from Max to assault Milk Dragon. Milk Dragon may need to get out of here in a hurry, and he has the teleporter up. Let's take a look over at the third planet. That teleporter's up, so he's getting the anchor up to protect it as well. He's actually got a good escape point set up over here, and we'll just see no one else on their way, so he would have a good opportunity. He's ready to rebuild over here very quickly, so like to see those get linked up. Maybe he's going to stay and try to protect a little bit longer, but I think with armies coming in from each side, he should grab his fabricators and as much of his army as possible and get out. And you can see the teleporter comes online, and a retreat is being made with a lot of units. I think he knows, like, really he's just got to save everything he can and get through there as quickly as possible. So it'll be interesting to see whether the other players will just see him escape, see that teleporter, and then decide to, like, okay, now it's time to fight each other, or if they'll hold on to their alliance and go on with the chase and from an orbital perspective. Now we've got a Astraeus moving here out to the secondary planet here. We can see we've already got not burnt custard, Headcrab, who's disguised as burnt custard on the second planet, but Alistar is not willing to leave that to him. I'm really liking the thinking and play that Alistar's doing here, seeing that going on, and a bunch of the units have escaped here, more going through. I really think this is important because if he has a standing army, it makes it that much harder, or that much easier really, to defend his new location. But he's got to start working on his, primarily on his energy, I think. Well, energy and metal, but he did bring in through quite a few units. Did start off right away with the energy, and his commander's actually doing the work of getting some metal up. Super insightful play by Milk Dragon, in my opinion. Like, I mean, I don't know if he's going to win or survive this. This is a big blow to lose your base, but he's out here all by himself, and no one's on the way. And if we take a look from the other player's perspective, we can see they do have an orbital deep space radar, so they can see that he's out here. They'll know that there's an anchor here to protect, and realize that he's actually setting up shop over here pretty thoroughly. Back on the mainland, the end of Milk Dragon's initial base, they should really work to get rid of these energy plants and metal extractors as quickly as possible, because that is really their best chance of crippling Milk Dragon the most. And then looking around, I'm just going to cycle through again on the alliances. Max and Headcrab are still allied, and where are you? There he is. Okay, no, the alliance is over between Max and Alistar. Giant raid here by Max, and big fight here by Alistar. His commander is actually very low on health, but he does fight off that army and maintain his status. So the fighting has begun. If we take Alistar's perspective, we can see he's still allied with Headcrab, so that's valuable. But let's look at Headcrab's perspective just a moment while that clicks in. He's actually still allied with both players, so he knows that these two guys are going to duke it out, and that will actually allow him to pull even further ahead. So that actually is very interesting because, well, Alistar's actually Headcrab's very strong here on his economy. Alistar is next, and Milk Dragon's way in the back here, but he's now probably got a reprieve as the players work on fighting each other. Headcrab now making his move out to the Oh, he actually had he was out here already. Headcrab's kind of got his base started out here. Alistair's getting his base started, really just working on that teleporter now. Take a quick look out here. Oh, I'm still under the perspective of Headcrab, so we'll get that cleared up for the all-person view. And yeah, he's working on getting a lot of those anchors out just to protect his planet. Could be in an interesting situation if Headcrab wins the other two planets and he wins this planet. He might want to smash a planet, but then it's like, well, what do I do? So he'll need to figure out a plan to get a beachhead on those. But the power of having two planets of economy could lead to a lot of nuclear warfare. So I see a advanced factory started down here for Headcrab. A lot of basic factories have been in progress. More fighting between Alistair and Max. I feel like just looking at this, Max has actually just a fairly equal on army size. A lot more mobile, though, on the total count. Alistair has a lot more fabricators, and Max has a lot more actual mobile units. And actually, Headcrab moving into the base now, so if we take from Max's perspective, he has actually lost the alliance there. But if we look at Alistair and Headcrab working together and wiping out Max now. So that is an interesting development in the alliance situation. Really, I think that Headcrab is doing so well that it might have been wise for Alistair and Max to team up, but that is not happening. Max actually moving his commander out into the ocean. I think that's a really good move. That will give him some chance to escape, but really he's going to be left with no economy unless he protects his base. Started to move out towards Alistair, and now he's trying to pull it back. So looking around, just going to take a cycle of the planets. On the second planet, Headcrab got a pretty good established base. Already has a factory up and is, in fact, I think, yeah, this is a advanced factory. And he is working on advanced metal out here, so that will help him quite a bit. He's starting to scout out the whole place. He sees that Alistair is here. Probably not too worried, as Alistair has, kind of on the back foot relative to Max, and took a pretty strong beating there in the initial confrontation. Headcrab has actually moved into kind of this protection point and gets quite a bit of damage out with that sheller, but got a little too close, and now Max is feeling the hurt as he is down to 58 metal per second. Out on Alaska, the third planet, we see quite a bit of production going on out here. He's used the area build to build umbrellas all over the planet. Unfortunately, they do make this giant ring at the caps. And there's a teleporter here by Max. He was trying to make his escape there, and the teleporter's been spotted by Milk Dragon. He's sending in units to take care of it, and could link up and do an invasion. He actually has enough forces, I believe, still back on the main planet to make that escape work. And the teleporter going up over here, he's going to need to move his forces back as quickly as possible to escape. We could have an interesting flip here, as from a military perspective, Milk Dragon only has 28 mobile units and Max has 85. So he could pop through this teleporter and get a lot done. Let's take a look out here. That teleporter is still up and in fact is getting repaired by the orbital fabricator. So he just needs to link that up and go, and he could actually do quite a bit of an escape plan here. You can see the teleporter just came up, just has to maintain his economy long enough to get through. Everybody going through. He's got to abandon this ship and get on the other planet, and that is a huge, interesting development. And looking out here, this could be big trouble for Milk Dragon. Milk Dragon actually disconnected, unfortunately, and I am going to pause the game briefly to give him a chance to reconnect. Milk has reconnected, and that should be good. I'm going to go ahead and re-enable the chat for a moment here. And I seem to have been popped back to a game lobby. Oh, nope, that was just a little bit of a change there. And we're back, and just going to make sure. Milk Dragon may have had a problem. Okay, Milk Dragon is back, and the game, they went ahead and resumed it themselves. That's perfect. And great. So looking out here on incredibly loud cannons, orbital fight, and Headcrab's out here, and this is, looks like a reclaim on on Max's orbital fabricator. Very clever move as he reclaims the enemy. But he's already gotten through, and I think this is where he needs to be. So he now should use his army as quickly as possible to fight. But it looks like he might turtle up. That would be a terrible mistake, actually. And yeah, he really, you know, there's a advanced spot factory partially completed, but not actually being worked on. That will actually deteriorate here in a minute, and Milk Dragon has now seen the fight out here, and he has some. Now his moving underneath the anchors. The anchors are in fact going to deal a little bit of damage, but it's not actually the fastest damage. Gets up a tower, but may lose it very quickly. Actually, a wall goes up in between. That's a pretty good move, but he loses the tower. So this is a good push. This is a really exactly what Max needs to do, is to try to, you know, take an unprepared Milk Dragon who's actually got quite an economy, a lot bigger economy, and it looks like I missed the demise of Alistair. I'll go back to the main planet and see if I can find that. Just going to go back to the chronocam and go back. And there's a teleporter here. He got behind Max, but that does not appear to be the issue. Where is he? Just looking for that commander. He may have gone to the second planet. Just going to take a look over here. Yep, there's the commander, and here's Headcrab. He was quite damaged here, and we'll just fast forward and see what the situation was here. I think these, yep, the bombers come in. He gets backstabbed by Headcrab and is taken out. So that was the end of that. I'm going to close the chronocam here, and then we'll move out to the third planet and see where we are. Both players still fighting. And a big push here by Max. Really glad to see that happening. That's exactly what he needed to do. A couple towers taking out this teleporter. Teleporter's not actually relevant, but Milk Dragon doesn't know that. And he's lost a ton of economy. You can see all these lost metal extractors. Going to bring him down. But unfortunately, really it's going to be about production. And he does not have that much production. So he's got, he's lost a lot of economy here, actually. And now he's just trying to get out some units here to fight. Really, I think given that he didn't already have factories, the fastest thing would be to deal with some towers. Because he doesn't really have to do that much to out-survive Max. Because Max is down to just the 10 metal production as the commander starts producing his own metal right there. Does he have anything building out here? No. So that is this really, I'm not sure what's holding up Max. He actually stalls here and stops. I think it's a terrible mistake. Not that I can blame him because he doesn't have the intel I have from my perspective, but he's got a mobile army of 40 units, Milk Dragon 23, and a lot of those units are actually, yeah. Well, I don't know where his 23 units are. Oh, a lot of them are actually these Avengers. So the Avengers are those guys one by one and can just kind of run away. And he's actually got quite a few of those, so he needs to make sure he kites here or brings in his commander to tank. Really, Uber Cannon would probably be the best way to go here. Could take out a lot of those guys. Yep, there you go. Uber Cannon. This is actually a big problem for Max. He really didn't want to go near that commander, and the anchor is starting to plug in as well. Max's mobile army count just dropping to nothing now, and Max is down to his commander and I think a few planes on the other side of the planet, which I've lost track of. Maybe they're back on the main planet. So Max, basically at the beginning of the game, up here in space, we see a bunch of Avengers fighting each other. Now this is looks to me like it's going to favor Headcrab, who's just had a lot of resources to put into it, and he's going to take out all these guys. Some of them not even fighting, so this isn't what he's paying attention to right now. And that is, it's looking very good for Headcrab now because he's being aggressive early on. Puts down a teleporter, in come the units. If he gets through here and does damage to the economy, this could go very well. And a little bit of commander boxing over here. This is a disaster for both of these players as Headcrab has a giant army. And we can see that Max has nothing to lose. Blows up. That boxing match is won by Milk Dragon, but his commander's down to almost nothing and could easily be sniped. So now it's down to Milk Dragon and Headcrab. Milk Dragon down to 51 metal per second, and Headcrab with a ton of units coming through, including Tier 2. And I feel like these Vanguards are going to do a lot of work. Making a beeline over here. If we take Headcrab's perspective for just a moment, just going to get that to work. Headcrab can clearly see because he's got that advanced radar satellite, so he knows everything going on the planet, and he's sent units directly over to work on Milk Dragon. All right, well, I just want to let you guys know we've worked on we're doing a lot of work on the sound and making sure that it's not going to be like that in upcoming builds. So some progress is being made, and we're actually adding additional tools that will let Howard, our composer and sound guy, make the sound work out better. So this is going to fall in, as the chat says, to the wrecked category pretty quickly here. And we're just waiting for those final moments. Vanguard's approaching. There used to be some fabricators. Remember that time we had fabricators? Yeah, that time's over. A little bit of a reclaim on those Vanguards. Not going to be enough. This guy's going to get in range, make one shot, and that'll be the end of Milk Dragon. So good game. Headcrab, who spent a good portion of the game being disguised as burnt custard, has won it and will move on to the finals. All right, I'm going to review the game here for a moment and see if we can get back to some interesting plots. Let's go back to about the 4-minute mark. I think at 4 minutes, let's see. Let's go, yeah, right about there. Obviously go back to the main planet, Neutrino. And we can see this was the time when we kind of first realized that Milk Dragon was all alone. He's scouting, and meanwhile, if you looked at any of these other guys, you could see that they had full vision on each other, and they were totally in an alliance. And then as you look forward to about the 7, almost 8-minute mark, you can see here that Headcrab is doing an excellent job of expanding. He's got a lot of territory. He's got a lot of metal. His metal per second's like considerably, almost 50% ahead of his of Max and Alistair, so really doing well there and expanding. And then a little bit later, that's about the time that Milk Dragon's getting attacked by a couple players at once. Around, you can see that Head Crab's coming in here, and Max is moving in at the same time. So that was like an important step. Shortly thereafter, you can see that he escapes right about the 10 minutes and 45 second spot. You can see this is him working on his teleporter, and by that time he'd already gotten a teleporter at least planned out here. So he was realizing how much trouble he was in because he was seeing two guys. Minutes later, he's going to lose his whole base. Escapes with his commander at that point, and then you can see as we move forward that his whole base is pretty much gone here shortly thereafter. Right about the 14-minute mark, Alistar actually gets dropped out of the alliance, and you can see that if we take Alistar's perspective, like he's lost sight of what's going on with Max, so they know that that things are going on and that the fight's coming up, and just going to take that back to full vision. If we move forward here on that, you can see the fight is there. Looks like it might have been initiated by Alistar because his army was kind of already on the move first. And there's a huge conflict there because Alistar was actually pretty far behind here. And he actually takes a big beating here. Max's armies all bunched up here, pretty much a line here. And meanwhile, pretty good attempt at taking him out over here with the Air Force. So he has to run off to the second planet at that point. And Headcrab's already doing a good job of expanding in that direction as well. And right about the 16... hold on, let me get out here. So at this point, Milk Dragon was really like taking over the planet, looking good, but it's one of those things where it's easy to get in this mode where you're just macroing all the time, and you really need to have a standing army, because when somebody shows up with a huge economy, you don't want to be like, well, I'm all money and no muscle. And you can definitely hear that tune from many a player who's taken over a planet, as well as our community manager, Brad Nicholson. And then Headcrab finally takes over the Smashable a little bit while later, and that is when there's kind of this epic fight and the comboxing end of Max. It was a really good escape attempt on his part, but he had let his army get in contact with Milk Dragon's commander, which was a disaster for him. And here, Milk Dragon does exactly the right thing, brings up a wall which starts to absorb a lot of damage, and you can actually just keep building walls and maybe even a tower, and that's definitely a good way to go. See the walls. This is an important part of any of those kind of comboxing matches, and something you need to learn if you're going to play with our new setting, which allows you to play and start anywhere. So that is kind of the beginning of the end. You can see that at that point, Headcrab has tons of economy, the other players have none, and that led to a final victory here at the end, when Headcrab brought all of his advanced fighting units in and wiped out Milk Dragon. So that being the end of that story, I'm going to go back to the lobby space, and the next game is ready to go.